The Lakers led by as much as 27. They win by 12 and get their first Game 1 win of the postseason. They're ahead 1-0 against the Denver Nuggets in these Western Conference Finals. Welcome to Playoff Central Live. Chris Miles here with 3D and Greg Anthony. Fellas, there's only one word that truly describes this victory for the Lakers, and that's dominant. They went on that 17-1 run, the start of the second quarter, never looked back. Anthony Davis, 37 points, 10 rebounds. LeBron James with a modest stat line for him with the 15 points and 12 assists. So let's start with you, 3D. That word that I used, dominant. It's been used a lot for the Lakers in their 9 wins, which they're winning by an average of 13 points a game. Would you say that's a fair assessment in tonight's victory?
Yeah, Chris. It made me think about when AD arrived in L.A. They were going back and forth. Should LeBron be MVP candidate? Should AD be MVP candidate? Well, AD showed us tonight he has to be dominant. He talked about, as a team, they talked about him being the guy. We know what LeBron's done. We know he's been there before and done that. So for me to be in his first Western Conference final, like you said, Chris, they hadn't won the Game 1.
He really did. And, you know, we talk a lot about how dominant AD was. And, you know, LeBron was solid and Rondo played a really good game. Dwight Howard was terrific also. But I don't think we give enough credit to Frank Vogel and his coaching staff. Because what happens in a series, when you go into and you've got time to prepare, they've gone back and watched all those games against the Clippers, against the Utah Jazz, against the games they played them in the regular season. And they figured out areas where they could attack and have success. And one of those areas were transition. You know, the Lakers did a great job of forcing tempo on a team that likes to play up-tempo. And a lot of times they were able to get out and score after the Nuggets had scored. And, you know, little things like that make a big difference. You know, game plan, and you heard Anthony Davis talk about it, it plays a role. And when the guys go out and buy in, defensively, they were terrific. They did such a good job of just taking advantage of what Denver likes to do. When you cut and you're always backdooring and you have a lot of motion on offense, a lot of times that creates a lot of transition opportunities. And so the Lakers, great anticipation here, coming up with the steal. They studied the film. They know what the Nuggets like to do. And the Nuggets are still going to have some success. But when they're able to create those opportunities, that solid defense they played for really the second quarter on, it led to a lot of run-out opportunities. And that also coupled with how the Lakers shot it well from three. They didn't shoot a ton of them, but they shot a high percentage. I think they were about 40% last I had looked. And then they also were dominant in the paint. So credit Frank Vogel, Lionel Hollins, Jason Kidd, that entire coaching staff for the game plan they put forth against a Nuggets team that I thought tonight, in fairness, they looked a little tired. And you could just see the way they reacted to when things weren't going their way. And while the Lakers look dominant, I expect them to win the series. I do think we'll see a better effort from the Nuggets in Game 2.
Yeah, back-to-back Game 7s and then facing a Lakers team that had essentially been resting. So that's a good point that you make there, GA. When you look at the Lakers, they had 7 steals in the first half, which turning them into buckets in transition, but also assisting. Rondo and LeBron had 21 assists. The Nuggets as a team had just 23. The Lakers as a team ended with 33 assists. How big was that in tonight's Game 1, GA?
It's huge because that means there's a lot of trust and confidence. Remember all the talk coming into the postseason. The Lakers were a horrible three-point shooting team. They were really struggling to score the basketball. And the reality is it looks like now they finally have gotten their legs. They've gotten an identity of how they're going to play. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with Rondo being back in the lineup because he does – you know, we didn't talk about this, but, you know, the talk had always been, well, you know, Kuzma's got to be our third best player and who's going to be in and we're going to do it by committee. But for me, Rondo clearly has been their third best player and third most important player because of his facilitating ability. When you don't have a guy who can naturally go out and create his own offense consistently as a third option, you got to have somebody that can create offense. And that's what Rondo has done terrifically throughout this postseason. And it's one reason why I think this Lakers team offensively is clicking and, boy, defensively that's where I would use the word dominant. They have been lights out on that end.
Yes, certainly the veterans playing bigger than the box score. Rajon Rondo, 7 points, 9 assists. But like you said, it felt like a lot more than that. Dwight Howard, 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 blocks, but felt bigger than that as well. 3D, we'll hear from you. But first, we have to hear from Nuggets head coach Mike Malone.
Was a contributing factor here, but how did this one get away after that first quarter? What changed?
Well, even in that first quarter, we didn't guard anybody. You know, our offense was able to score the ball, but there was little defense. A huge point of emphasis going into this series was transition, getting back, makes, misses, turnovers, dead balls. And they scored 25 transition points tonight, and had 15 turnovers for 20 points fueled their break. And then that second quarter, to your point, I'll have to go back and watch the film, but I know that they only shot 42% in that quarter, but they went to the foul line 24 times in one quarter. 24 times in a quarter, which is an extremely high number, on pace for almost 100. And we were called for 16 personal fouls in that quarter. And then on top of that, 7 turnovers, again, fueling their break. So I'll have to go back and watch the film to see what we can do better. How do we defend without fouling? Because, well, we're not going to beat that team by putting them on the foul line 37 times. So that's definitely part of it.
Next, we'll go to Mike Singer. Mike, go ahead.
And Michael, obviously, you mentioned college football. How can you, or what can you do to protect Nikola a little bit more and not have him pick up those tick-tack fouls?
I don't know if there's anything I can do. I mean, I can't go out there and play for him. We just have to be a little bit smarter. We got to show our hands. And again, I'm looking forward to watching the film to see where all these fouls were called. And obviously in the second half, things got evened out, but it was an extreme advantage for the Lakers in that first half. So watch the film, see the fouls that are being called, why they're being called, should they have been called, and then try to learn from it and get better for game number 2.
Next, we'll go to Malika Andrews, who is there. Malika, go ahead.
I feel I'm embarrassed to say this. I really don't have any. That's the first I'm hearing of this. Maybe because I'm so locked into this series, so I really don't have anything to comment on that right now. I apologize.
Next, we'll go to Mark Kisla. Mark, go ahead.
Fouls are always tricky to talk about. How do you fight for respect on the whistle? And second, maybe more basketball, straight basketball. You got to keep them out of the paint if you're going to win this series. How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for 3 days now. The keys to beating this team are getting back in transition, protecting the paint, and giving them one shot. Obviously, we did a poor job of that tonight in all areas. So how do you protect the paint? You don't turn the ball over, which is one way of slowing them down in transition. And then we need a much greater sense of urgency to get back. We were giving up layups after we scored baskets ourselves. So that indicates to me that our sense of urgency to get back was not anywhere remotely close to where it needed to be tonight. And then Anthony Davis obviously had 37 points. We have to do something different with him. It was too easy for him tonight. He did not feel us. And I think over 48 minutes, we just can't play him the same, give him the same look. So that's definitely something that we can look at the film and figure out how we can be better. But for me, kids, it's really simple. It starts with just the urgency to get back. Set your defense. And when you're set, make sure we're showing a crowd to LeBron, we're showing a crowd to Anthony Davis, and not being hugged up. This was not a great game for us. Yes, we scored in that first quarter. But one thing I do know about our group, we've proven it time and time again, we can learn from our losses and figure out what we need to do better going into the next game and give ourselves a much better chance to win.
We have time for one more here. We'll end with Dan Woike, who is there. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, he came in and played well. Obviously, they started JaVale, and they came in with Morris first. They were playing small, And then when they inserted Dwight into the game, I thought his size, his physicality, his athleticism, he made a huge contribution to their game, gave them great energy on both ends of the floor. I mean, you look for the game, 16 minutes, 13 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals. So he came in, did a good job on Nikola. He's guarded Nikola well in the past, and give him credit. He was ready to go tonight, and he helped impact the game for them.
All right, Coach, that'll do it.
Jamal Murray, 21 points, 3 3-pointers, 7 for 12 from the field in game 1.
You know, when you look at the last series, it's a completely different series. You know, 2 completely different teams that play 2 different ways. So I think we just got to adjust. Their pace kind of, you know, even after made baskets, we were trying to get matched up and everything. And we just got to be better. We just got to be on point. We have to talk earlier. You know, point, whatever we got to do. We're going to be cross-matched at times, but as long as we keep the body in front and trust our rotations, we should be all right. But yeah, they came in and the pace kind of changed in the way that we're ready for.
Next, we'll go to Katie Wingy. Katie, go ahead.
Hey Mal, I'm curious, what is the vibe in the locker room after that loss? Obviously, it's just one game, but what's the biggest point of emphasis for you guys in terms of changes going into game 2 now?
We just finished the game. I don't know about the changes yet. You know, obviously it's the first game. We're not going to overreact, but we just got to be better. You know, the first half really didn't go our way, and that really took us out of a lot of stuff. I felt like we should have had the lead. It wasn't for some unfortunate things that happened. But yeah, we'll just come back and be better and try to be physical and try to hit them early, try to get on run and push the pace in our favor.
Next, we'll go to Mike Singer. Mike, go ahead.
Well, you said you probably should have had the lead, but at the beginning of that second quarter, they reel off a 17-1 run that obviously flipped the game and kind of set the tone for the rest of it. What happened in those first few minutes of the second quarter?
I don't know, if you watch the game, you could tell. Yeah, if you watch the game, then you could tell.
Next, we'll go to Mark Medina. Mark, go ahead.
Hey Jamal, how do you guys moving forward adapt to the whistles?
Just try to play through it. It's tough. They want to talk about every call and have full conversations and try to manipulate what happens. But you can't worry about it. We know how it's going to be. We know we're the younger team. We're just going to play through it. We're going to find a way, and we're not going to go away so easy. So.
All right, next we'll go to Mark Kisla. Mark, go ahead.
2 things. You faced questions as a team of physicality in both of the first 2 series and responded very well. Is this a whole different beast because the Lakers can play so big? And second, talking about fouls, do you have to win your respect from the whistle rather than lobby for the respect or argue for the